Welcome to the Lightforge. This is ADWCTA.
This is Merps, and today we have a very special guest.
Oh,
Uh, a little bit of introduction. We have the arena expert from Temple Storm and the only known player to record 6 12-win rogues in a row. It's Ratsmah.
hi, hello.
How's it going, man?
That's six
Good,
in a
good. How you guys doing?
row.
Yeah, we're doing very well. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun. We haven't even started. I'm having a ton of fun.
Looks like you have very high expectations for this show. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm expecting some good things as well. But
I mean, you did say that you were going to send me the itineraries for what we were going to do, but
I didn't.
you didn't. So everything will be a
Yes.
surprise. I love surprises.
Oh, that
Hashtag
is
blame
amazing.
Merps.
Exactly. I like how we're starting this show by basically pointing out my inability to coordinate.
No, you're good.
It's okay.
All right.
It has to be better than that last game. Ratsmah's streaming right now, and he just finished one game where I think it was the first game of the run. You said where the game ended because the opponent was taking fatigue damage and then played a scenarios.
Yep. After turn one, coin innervating a Yeti. Yep.
Yeah.
This is
Pretty
arena
good.
stuff, just arena things.
It's a typical 0-0 opponents, you know? So, Ratsmah, now that we got you on the show, I just want to start you off with an easy question. Let's go all the way back. The origin of Ratsmah. So, how did you get into Hearthstone in the first place?
So in middle school, I played a lot of Magic with friends. Never competitive, just as a casual player. And I just love puzzle games. I love card games. I love poker. And so when Hearthstone was coming out, and I'm a big Blizzard junkie as well. I played every single Blizzard game. I was really excited for it. And I watched a lot of streamers play in closed beta, like Crip and Trump, and they all played Arena because that's all there was in the beginning. Constructed was non-ranked, so no one had interest in it. And thanks to them, I watched a lot of them playing and got into Arena. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm pretty good. I think I might be better than these guys. And so I started streaming it. And people actually like my content. So, that's how we are here a year and a half later.
Cool. So you're one of the people who actually stuck with Arena. You talked about how you thought Arena was interesting, and back then ranked was not that rewarding. But we've seen a lot of people shift away from the Arena into constructed, but you never moved. So what's up with that?
I cannot be moved. Arena is the one true game mode. I mean, constructed, it gets a little bit stale. You end up facing a lot of the same decks, net decks, and you end up playing the same decks. And it ends up with you playing the same games, like entirely. Like you'll see a start, you'll be like, okay, I already lost. Turn two, that hunter has, double leopard gnome or the knife juggler out, I don't have an answer. It's over, right?
Yeah.
Arena is a little bit more spontaneous and less predictable, and that's what I like.
No, that's definitely true. Although, from my perspective, I can't really talk. I know nothing about constructed, so me comparing it to that might as well be me comparing it to like astrophysics or something. That I have
No, to Merps, it's never the same game board unconstructed because he's never seen the normal game boards that a constructed player would have seen. It would actually be
Yes.
all new. Just the crazy things that happen in constructed all the time. So see a secret paladin and be like, oh, what is that? I didn't know that card was that good.
Oh yeah, Mysterious Challenger. It's famous in Arena for that one secret, always pulls out one or two.
Yeah, and I love the delay period because Mysterious Challenger pops out, and then the animation takes a long time. And there's like a 5-second delay before you actually see if and how many secrets it pulls out. So it's very, you always wait for it. And in constructed, there's going to be five secrets pulled out. But in Arena, you're like, how many is it going to be? Zero, like one or two?
It's perfect if you want some anxiety for 5 seconds, right?
See, you guys think that you just know that you're going to wait a couple seconds before the secret comes out. I still forget every time. That every time anyone plays Mysterious Challenger against me, I'm like, oh, he doesn't have any secrets. And then like 3 seconds later, I'm like, oh, crap.
I don't know
Now
why
I
that
remember.
happens with secrets. Like even with like Bear Trap, you hit into face, 3 seconds later, the bear appears.
That is so annoying.
Yeah.
Because for that 3 seconds, I'm just in self-doubt. I'm like, I swear I had a pretty good read that was going to be a bear trap. And nothing happens.
I feel like it happened after GBG. Like secrets started being delayed for some reason.
Look, Wizard just wants that tension, It's all part of the fun in the game.
Oh,
But
for sure.
Ratsmah, so I have this number in my head, but I want the exact number from you. So how many arena victories do you have total?
Across all 3 servers, I think on NA I have 11,500. On EU, I have 1,500, and on Asia, I'm getting close to 1,000, so about 14.5 thousand.
Okay. All right. So 14.5. ADWCTA, we're close, right? Close is in like a third
Like
of
a
that
digit
for
off?
us combined.
What do you guys
Yeah,
have?
like we talked to Blizzard. Well, we didn't talk to Blizzard, but Blizzard gave an interview on in BlizzCon. And they're talking about their dev team and how Mike Denice from the Blizzard dev team played a lot of Arena and he has 5,000 victories and everyone's like, oh, that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, that's a lot. Like that's like how much I have. And then here's Ratsmah with his like 15K just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Ratsmah, I think you're the perfect person to ask because of all of your experience. Are you still learning about the game? Like, do you still find new things that, new puzzles to solve, new challenges, or is it just kind of for you, like, oh, I've seen this a million times before?
So here's the thing about learning Hearthstone. As a beginner, when you first start, you learn about value and tempo, and you learn what cards are good and what cards are bad. Of course, all three of us are way past that. And now we do still learn, and the learning comes from changes in the meta. What we learn is what is going on right now. How do people play right now? And that is, it's not a permanent thing. Maybe like a year down the line, I'll be completely off on the meta, but that is, that's what we're trying to improve, is trying to play against the meta.
Yeah, I agree. And it just keeps shifting on you. Like when I first started Arena, I thought, oh, I'm going to learn this skill, and then it's going to always be, like a different challenge every single run, but I'll kind of have it. And then GVG kind of happened, and I was like, well, my average dropped like 0.5 wins per run on average. And at first I was in denial, and eventually I was like, okay, yeah, no, I need to like figure this out, because the whole like Nax Classic way of doing things was not working as well. And I was one of the, like in Nax and Classic, I was tempo. I was a very heavy tempo player, I thought, until GVG came out, and I realized, no, I'm actually like pretty much in the middle, because there's a lot of players with a lot more tempo styles, and I had to adjust.
GVG really flipped Arena on its head. I think it's the single most, the single biggest effect or like change to Arena was GVG. It made the meta extremely fast, and it's still here. We still sense it with everyone playing Paladin and a lot of classes that ride the board. Or benefit from having the initiative to trade and use buffs.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think GVG was kind of the this huge cataclysmic event in the
Cataclysmic.
Arena. Yeah, I know. It was huge. It was this huge event in the Arena meta. And whether or not Blizzard cares about the Arena, or whether or not they shift their strategy around the Arena even a little bit, we can talk about another time. But I mean, we could see that Nax after Classic, not a huge change. GVG just put out all of these power cards, number one, and number two, it just changed kind of the meta in such a dramatic way that was very hard for a lot of people to adjust, and also made the game extremely fast, right? It made the game extremely fast, and it seems like Blizzard has been, whether purposefully or not, reacting to it by, BRM. We didn't get many fast cards. We got some slow cards, and we filled in a few gaps for the underpowered classes, like Imp Gang Boss for Warlocks. And
got cheap removal. That's the thing.
Yeah, and ever since that point, we also went to TGT, which focused on a little bit of a slower metagame because of Inspire cards, and now you might want to, squeeze out a little bit more value by doing that. And we see that in LoE as well. I don't know if we'll see another GVG at any point soon and the impact of the meta, but that's really cool. We learned something. I think Blizzard learned something, and we'll see what the other expansions kind of have in play.
I have some insider information for you guys for your podcast only. So at BlizzCon, I was talking to Amaz, and I asked him some questions. I asked him, hey, how many people do you think play Hearthstone or watch Hearthstone on Twitch only for Constructed and only for Arena, and what percentage do you think likes both? You know what number he told me plays only Arena?
What?
He said 5% to 10%, and he said that he had information from Blizzard.
Yeah, no, that's about right. People who play only Arena, 5 to 10%. I think that's where I would ballpark it as well.
Really?
Yeah, but I think like at least two thirds, play both Arena and Constructed in some kind of fashion. So if you're talking about, like, what number did he say played only Constructed? That I'm curious about. I'm wondering if he said something more than a quarter.
At first he said 80 or 90, and then
Only constructed?
and then I mentioned both, like you only constructed, and then he
Yeah.
gave like 60%. I guess
No.
someone made me wrong.
There's no way 60% of Hearthstone players
mean-
play only constructed. Well, okay, that's oh, I take that back. If you're like a new Hearthstone player, or if you just play for like a little bit, maybe you haven't played both game modes yet. But I think if you're a regular game Hearthstone player, there's got to be like at least 50% that play both arena and constructed.
Well, I mean, it depends on if you count the people that play arena, and they only play arena to get cards for constructed. And then at some point,
Yeah, I mean,
they'll
they
start
should
playing
count,
arena
right? Because they're still
Yeah,
playing arena.
they're still
Then it
playing,
doesn't have to be their favorite game mode. They're doing it, right? Like I play ranked to rank 20, but if there was some kind of reward at rank 10, then I had to grind my way to rank 10 every season to get there. I consider myself a ranked player.
There's always this like inflow of new players being introduced to Hearthstone in any game, and you see this. But there's a point where that stops. Like Hearthstone will stop getting new players. It'll only be veteran players or people who have played for a while. And once those people stop playing arena, and because some of them don't care about arena, they just want the cards, right?
Yep.
They play arena, they don't need any more cards. Then you'll see a lot more competition in arena. So you'll see this trend of arena getting more and more difficult after every update, and also after time passes, because there's less new players for it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that everything gets more difficult as time goes on, and I think that's true in constructed too. Because when you get new players, you get both constructed and the arena, and I think the more you kind of play, the more people actually, like the veterans of Hearthstone, switch more and more into arena. That's kind of the trend you saw with MTG back in the day, and it's just there's only so often you can play in the same meta, and there's only so much that Blizzard can do to keep the meta kind of fresh, which they're doing a good job of it right now. But at some point, you just want more randomness.
For sure.
Or just like to kind of like toss things in the air, right? Like who knows how seriously people who play constructed like go into the arena for, but I think it'll be kind of more equal. But I definitely think that right now arena is like the 5 to 10% number does not surprise me at all. Hearthstone is a very much constructed centric game, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the development too.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's because we don't have a ladder system for arena? So people want to kind of compete and see their rank, but with arena, you get 12 wins, you get one key, and then once you get that key, you're done, right? That Lightforge key.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that there is, and also that this was like the next question I was supposed to ask you. So good job on. You are one step ahead. Ratsmah is one step ahead of
Ratsmah doesn't need the itinerary. He just knows it.
He just makes it. But anyways, to answer the question that I was supposed to ask you, I think that really is part of the problem, because like you said, you get the 12 wins and kind of you're done, right? And nothing goes on any sort of permanent record. You can take a picture of it, post it on Reddit, and be like, hey, I got 12 wins, and might get a few upvotes here or there, but that's basically it. There's no big achievement, there's no competition, and there's not even little achievements like what they do in ranked. 500 victories, you get a gold portrait. Let's say in arena, if you achieve 12 wins with a certain card, you get a gold card that you can use next time in the arena. Yeah, like no permanent rewards of any kind. So I think that is holding it back.
And I agree. Like the only way you get rewarded is through like taking a picture of it. You have like these small streams that play arena only, like mine and yours, and then you get like maybe like some like forum, like on forums, you get those small threads or like small sections in those forums. But if arena did have some way to track your wins, losses, or even like I don't know, like more development for arena, it would definitely help us for sure, since we play mainly arena. It'd be great for the game, I think. Just having people talk about it and having a community that backs it is huge.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I think the community it's coming together, right? Like one thing that I learned when I started Arena Warriors Matter is that there are actually a lot of people who care and who can be vocal about this type of things.
Correct.
And it could be only 5 to 10%, but I think that what you're really looking at are people who may prefer to play ranked, people who may play more ranked play, but they also want a little bit of arena in their life. Like if they're playing 20 hours a week, they want like 2 arena runs a week to take up like that, like 3 hours or something, and they'll play the
That's
rest
a nice
ranked.
change from Constructed.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Blizzard recognized this when they introduced Tavern Brawl. But
Yeah.
I don't know about the success for Tavern Brawl compared to Arena. But I think if they made another try to make another Arena mode or just add rankings or anything to Arena, that it would work well. Like it would fit well with the Arena community at least, because there is a large group of people that do support and only want to play Arena or play Hearthstone for Arena.
Yeah, I think what Tavern Brawl has really done is kind of carved out this extra space, or kind of like allowed the arena to potentially expand. They haven't done anything with it yet, but before Tavern Brawl, constructed ranked play was kind of the serious mode, and because casual mode was never actually casual, casual mode was just kind of no one really played casual, and Arena was kind of this casual mode where nothing was permanent and nothing went on your record. It wasn't ranked, but now with Tavern Brawl, we have this actual casual mode. It's fun, it's goofy, it's wacky. You can just go in there, test out new cards as well. So it's this cool, fun thing that very well fits into the spirit of Hearthstone. And because of Tavern Brawl, I think it gives Blizzard the opportunity to add a ranking system to Arena, to just do something with Arena to elevate its elevate it from its previous casual level.
Yeah. And I think it's happening. Like, Blizzard's just a little slow on these kind of big changes, and they don't think they need to be fast because, we're not going anywhere. There's no real competitor to Hearthstone that is out in the market or anything. We're still going to be playing Hearthstone. Everyone is going to be playing Hearthstone. I don't think there's that many people, like, jumping ship to, like, I don't know, Magic again or anything like that. It's just so different at this point. Yeah, so they have the time, they have the runway, and then I think they'll build in the more basic features for the Arena.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we bag on Blizzard or even Hearthstone, like there really is no competitors to Hearthstone. Yeah. Like there's no online card game that even comes close to like Hearthstone's following or Hearthstone's quality.
Yes,
that's true. So Ratsmah, you with all of this Arena experience, you've been playing it longer than I think any streamer has. Like, what would you like to see added to the Arena specifically?
You have Ben Bro's ear.
Let's do like seasons where it's like, oh, okay, let's go back to classic, only classic cards Arena, and for a week or a couple of days you have a ranking system and be like, hey, this person won this, and then maybe we can even collect Blizzard points, like BlizzCon points or whatever you call them, and we can compete in our own like BlizzCon Arena tournament. Even if it's a small one, it would be nice to be up there, have a chance to be up there.
I like that. So your idea is not just a ranking system; it's also kind of a meta adaptation game as well, right? So we kind of set these special parameters, and we also see who is the most adaptable to these parameters.
Excuse me? Sorry. I didn't follow.
No problem. No. So like, for example, you said we bring back to Classic. So we not only see who's the best player in this meta, we see who's the best player who can adapt to these new rules.
Yeah, different parameters are fun. You get more variety, and people excel in different environments. It's nice to see who's good at what.
Yeah. I like that idea because you have a lot of things. Like even Blizzard's doing it right now with Overwatch. They're trying to do a stress test or something, but just like one weekend, this is what's happening in this area. So you could say like one weekend, Friday through Monday, Arena is going retro. We're going back to classic cards only. At the end, we'll publish the rankings for that weekend, and you can just kind of draw the focus into the Arena for a small period, the way that they do for Brawl, like every Wednesday.
That creates talk. If people talk about it online or in person, that brings more interest in the game. More people have their mind on Hearthstone. I think it's great. I don't see any downside to it really.
Yeah.
I don't think you're stealing customers away from constructed to Arena. I think you're bringing new people in.
Yeah, you're getting people who are going to pay for that Arena ticket.
It's like adding a new flavor at like Baskin Robbins, right? It's like it's not going to scare anyone away to have that new flavor. And the cost of adding a new flavor, maybe you got to buy a bigger whatever you call that container. But with this, you can just make it and people will come. There's not really a cost.
Yeah. To play devil's advocate here, because some of the things I've heard during the streams when I kind of pitched this idea of we should have this rank system. A lot of people ask, well, how do you account for the fact that some people want to play different classes, get better at different classes, but it just kind of pushes you to play the best possible class. And then past that point as well, it's like, how exactly do you rank? Because different people play different amounts of games, like a big sample size versus a small sample size. Like, at a certain point, it's like, do you just not play to protect your number? And we have some of these problems in constructed as well, but in there, for example, if you don't play, someone else can surpass you. Over here, there's the issue of kind of like no one would ever play warrior, and then basically people think that it's going to fundamentally change the way that people play arena, which I can kind of see in a way.
Yeah, I mean, but you do see a lot more paladins now, right? Paladins, mages, rogues, because they're the power classes. Everyone knows this. Yeah. Everyone knows that, if you play these classes, on average, you're going to get what, like 3, 4, 5 for average players, more wins per run. It's a big deal. But there are also people like us that will, play any class because we want to challenge ourselves. And, you have different kinds of people playing the same game, and, there's different results and different ways to play. So I don't see it as being too big of a problem. But if, I go back to Blizzard again, but if they did add some stuff for like benefits for playing warrior or shaman, in my opinion, second worst class, just give them new cards for arena only. This wouldn't affect the constructed meta. Just give them some kind of incentive to play those classes. It would make arena a lot more fun because the meta would change, right?
Yeah. I definitely think so. I just think something has to be added to the arena period. Like, no matter what they do at this point, it's kind of them doing anything, even adding like a small achievement system means, hey, look, they care about us. We exist.
Achievos, more achievos, yes, more achievos, please.
Everyone just needs love, man. You just need to be shown love, or like shown that someone cares about you.
The one thing about Blizzard's development, that they don't need to do anything, but a lot of the things that they're moving with on the Hearthstone level, like the very small things that don't really need the dev team to be there, balancing stuff. They don't really need like a ton of artwork or like things that take a lot of time, that are just kind of like UI, or they already have the stats, they just need to show people or publish it. Like, it seems like there's a lot of red tape internally to like get this stuff actually out, and it's not really so much like a technical limitation or like a resource limitation. It's more like they're just very conservative with how fast they push these features out, and with what information that they put out there, kind of to stick with their core philosophy of simplicity, right? Because anytime you add anything, it gets more complex. That's just kind of by definition.
Sure, and that's why you need like experts. This is why I think Crip is a really good person to try to like push this to Blizzard. He has the connections, and he can kind of gauge, what would be okay, what would not hurt arena, what would only be beneficial if we made a change,
Yeah.
And this is why, like, us as content creators, because we both are, or all three of us, sorry. Made you guys into
okay,
one
we're
person.
like one person.
ADWCTA and Merps. As content creators, that's our job, is to show Blizzard that there is a community that's interested in arena, and it's big enough that you should mind it and do something for us.
And what happens, right? Like, we all saw what happened when, let's say, Patron Warrior was getting out of control, and people were raging really hard, and a lot of things were happening. Well, now you have 2 game modes that kind of balance each other, and then one game mode kind of goes to hell for a little bit, because let's be honest, Blizzard fully admits it. We know it. You can't always keep constructed balance. You never know what's going to happen when you introduce cards in constructed, what kind of decks will come out. Like, the creativity of deck creation is kind of endless in the constructed scene. So I don't care how good your development team is when you're making a TCG, releasing new cards is a minefield. So if something bad happens and Blizzard's trying to keep with their philosophy of let's wait a few months before we decide something is really bad for the meta, well, now only half of your game has really like suffered a problem, like either competitively or at the top.
Yeah, it's a great backup plan for sure.
Yeah,
I agree fully.
All right, so Ratsmah, I also wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about this one aspect that makes you very unique. Now, you might think a lot of things make you unique, and that's true, but
all Merps care about is the next thing he's going to say.
That's the only thing. That's the only reason why we got you on here. So right now, you are currently, I believe, the only pure arena streamer currently signed to a team. So number one, congrats for
Yes.
that distinction.
Thank you.
And number two, I think a lot of people will be interested. How did that happen? How did you join up with Temple Storm?
So, oh man, back when I was at about like 500 viewers, this is back maybe exactly a year ago. I decided to go full time. I just graduated college. My internship, I worked at an electrical company, and they wanted to hire me full on. And I said, you know what, that can wait. I got to go for my dream of playing children's card game for a living. And so, but I was getting the viewers. I was growing, and in 1 month I doubled it to 1,000 viewers on average. And but this was not paying my bills, right? I was having trouble monetizing it, and I heard on Reynad's stream that Froden spoke highly of me. Someone asked in chat or with a donation, they asked him, like, who's a good streamer to watch to learn the game? And Frodan gave my name as a suggestion, and my chat went crazy because that's a big deal when you're a small streamer. And so I messaged Frodan and I said, hey, thanks. I'm glad you think that, and thanks for enjoying my stream and give me a shout out. And a couple of weeks later, he messaged me and he was asking me how I'm doing, and I told him my problem about having trouble monetizing the stream and making this into an actual like career or a living. And he suggested that I talk to Reynad, and we got to talking, and it's been good since then. And
Nice.
Reynad and Brodan are both really great guys, honest, hardworking, and they invited me to join as an arena expert.
It's cool. Yeah. So how have things changed now that you're on a team? Have things changed at all, or is it the same old, same old?
I'm still singing annoying songs on stream, and
I've noticed.
just having fun with it. Don't know if much has changed. I guess I have something to say, like, oh, I'm on a team, which sometimes feels really good. But yeah, I think that's a good step for all of us. It's an arena player is on a competitive team. It means something about arena. It says something about arena.
Yeah, because before you joined Temple Storm, there were arena players on teams, right? Like Hafu used to be on C9,
Yes.
Trump used to be primarily an arena player, Crip was kind of primarily an arena player. They're on TSM, but they were kind of signed for like way before, like during the development of the game. It wasn't like they got signed because they were really good or arena players. So I do think this is like a very special and unique thing that's happening right now with Temple Storm, and it's like an excellent development. Like we first talked to you like way back in like pretty much last year around this time when your stream was growing and you'd first kind of like stepped out on it, and we did some co-ops and it was really fun. By the way, guys, Ratsmah, and this is something I learned like 6 months after knowing, like after actually having played with you, and like a year after I knew who you were. Ratsmah is hamster backwards. This is like
I thought you were going to say
blew my
something
mind.
amazing. Oh man.
This is completely anyway, off topic.
I
Back
was
on
waiting
the
for the
topic.
big drop there. I was like, what earth-shattering thing am I going to learn
I
about?
was getting scared. I thought he was going to reveal something bad on me.
Like imagine, I just thought it was like something that sounded cool
Yeah, it's
for
rats.
like the longest time.
It's like two rodents, right? Forward and backwards. It's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, no, it's awesome. But yeah, so then pretty soon after that, like I think in like the winter, you joined on to Temple Storm, and that was like I thought that was a really good development in the whole arena community for not just for you but for the whole like scene.
And actually, what's more surprising is this is an account I found because I was trying to register an account to stream on my first, just to start streaming for fun, right? Because who would have thought that it would have gotten this? I'm not gonna say I'm big, but gotten to this point at least.
Yeah.
And
Hey,
it
you're
said
on
that
an
my
actual
email-
esports team.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
so I tried to register a Twitch account, and it said that I already had one, and it was this one. And going back, I think I would change my name because a lot of people ask me what my name is about and don't really have a good answer. Sometimes I make one up for fun, but it would be cool to have a different name. But yeah, that's how surprising it was to me because I was just like, okay, whatever name, doesn't matter. this isn't going to become a thing. I'll just stream for a couple of people. If they watch, that's cool. So I mean, it's been mind blowing. It's been amazing, this journey.
So Ratsmah's message is, if you're streaming, make sure you pick out a name that you want to stick with 100%, because if you make it big like him,
never know.
You never know. But yeah, so I think kind of continuing on this pathway, do you think we'll see more people like you, people signed just kind of for their arena play, or just your personality and kind of lessons that you give on the stream?
Yeah, I actually have my eye on two guys right now. They stream together. I feel like they could probably join a team if they did some work contacting.
These sound like losers.
Yeah,
they are losers. That's the only down part.
Who streams arena together?
If those teams can see past that, honestly, I think you guys should be contacting teams. You guys have the stream numbers, and you guys are respected as arena professionals or experts. I think you guys would be a good fit for any team, and that's more money too.
Yeah, I think we're kind of at the point where, like, unlike you, we haven't given up our day jobs or our potential for a career and kind of gone at this full time. So we still have other sources of income, and we're not at the position where we're like, okay, we should really like monetize this heavily so that this can be like a real career. We may get there, but we're kind of
start sometime, right?
Yeah,
it's gonna be slow to start, so you might as well start soon.
As soon as Blizzard comes out with BlizzCon for Arena, we're there 100%.
Would love that.
Yeah. But Ratsmah, I think you're also a good person to ask about this for all those aspiring streamers out there who might be already streaming or think about streaming. I think you are someone who really grinded it out, did things well, also had the X factor. But what advice would you give to those people to get to where you are now?
Before you answer this question, Ratsmah, I'm going to interject a fact here for people who may have heard of Ratsmah but don't know. Ratsmah has been basically, like, if you just count the number of hours that people stream Hearthstone, he's in like the top 10, probably top 5 for like 12 of the last 13 or 14 months. Like, he streams about twice as much as what you would consider a normal streamer streams, and that's one of the big reasons why he was able to grow a lot. In addition to, of course, that you have to be streaming good content during that time. But it's really he's put in a lot of hard work over the last year. I know, sometimes we talk about this stuff and it's like, oh yeah, I just started streaming and, people thought I was good. And then, I signed with Tempo Storm, but there's really a lot of work that goes into it.
Yeah. I get this question a lot. Like, how did you make it as a streamer? You're so boring. Or, how did you make it? How did you come to be here? I say this isn't for just streamers, but if you aspire to do anything or you are interested in anything, even if it's something like bike riding, you really love bike riding or you really love skateboarding, give it your best, And that's what I did with this, is because I love the game. I gave it my 100%. Back when I first started, this is 3 months in, I had 50 viewers, and I saw it growing though. It was growing really fast, and I was interning and going to school. So I was interning for 6 hours and going to school for maybe, on average, 4 or 5 hours a day. And I didn't really have time to do anything. I didn't ever go out. I streamed every day for 8 hours. I slept less. I ate in my car on the drives to school, to work. And, I just put my heart into it. And, I didn't even consider, taking my internship as my job, I didn't even consider going with them. And I just, made myself believe that it would work out because I had passion for it. And I still do. I'm passionate for it. I want it. So I gave it my all and, so I'm here. So, just give your 100%.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I think it's very easy to kind of look at Twitch and to look at streamers with this passing glance and say, oh man, it would be awesome, and be a little bit sarcastic. It would be awesome if I could just play video games all day and, make money and have that be my job. But all the preparation of kind of the sacrifice that you've laid out here, that gets lost in the shuffle. And I think that's really important. And also it's a good lesson and a little bit of a cautionary tale to people as well who want to do this. That much like you said, all good things in life, you have to work for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of life lessons here, man. Ratsmah, you're dropping a lot of deep stuff on us today.
Oh, it's because I'm listening to calming music, probably. Change up the music, play something more exciting, and probably change up the things I say.
All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's all it is, man. Just give it your all.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So wait, ADWCTA, sorry, did you have something to add?
No, I'm just liking the life lessons. It's the Lightforge. 12 wins in the arena. You get a Lightforge key. Learn important life lessons. All in one day's work.
I was
Winning
actually thinking about that yesterday.
and in life.
That's a really clever name, Lightforge. It's a good podcast name.
I thought of it. I'm taking credit for that one.
Okay, I was actually about to give you the credit before you just like went out and grabbed it in like the first second.
I don't
Not
trust you
good.
to give me credit on this stuff, okay? You got to fight for what you earn. So I earned the credit for that name. But anyways, we're going to shift a little bit from deep life lessons with Ratsmah into arena talk with Ratsmah. So Ratsmah, I just want to ask, because last time we had Shady on, and he told us that a little bit surprisingly, his best class in the arena was Druid. And we talked about some nuances with the classes. What class do you think you're the best at?
I did take stats for like the first week of the TGT release, and I ended up with an average for Priest at 9.5. I don't think Priest is good. I think it's like the third worst.
I was about to say Ratsmah.
Yeah, it may have
Do I
been
not
a
know you
bunch of
anymore?
yeah, it was a lot of lucky runs, but what am I best at? I wouldn't say Priest. I want to say Rogue. Druid's up there. Warlock, I don't know anymore. My runs with Warlock have been terrible. I think my last like 3 Warlock runs have gone under 3, which is embarrassing to say, but I'll say it. It's the truth. Got to work on that. But yeah, Druid and Rogue probably. I think they're both really strong. And I agree. Shade, I'm not surprised that Druid is up there. Like Savage Combatant is a beast, literally, and also, figuratively as well.
Yes.
And what you notice now is that people are starting to understand. Like back in Classic, people would always insta-pick hard removal or any kind of spell, they would insta-pick it over minions. But now people are understanding that, initiative, being able to play a minion when there's nothing to target a spell on is a big deal because you make the trades. So what you see happening now is Druids can play things like Volcanic Lumber, Ironbark. They don't get punished because people are picking less spells. And yeah, that definitely contributes to Druid's high win rate. I'm sure everyone's Druid win rates have gone up, and Ironbark is in the past has been a very big risk because of hard removal and the tempo loss that you might get. But now it's, for me, it's an insta pick. You don't get punished for playing it.
And I know for you, that's not always been the case. I remember before TGT,
Never picked it.
Yeah, you picked a lot of what I would say are just kind of slightly above average cards over Ironbark. And, your fear was always because you have that, number one, you add inconsistency to your hand because of this clunky 8-drop. And number two, you drop it, and if you're behind, then, they use a hard removal, or even if they just have the board for it, like, it's never good to just drop this clunky 1 minion that costs 8 mana and does nothing on the turn that you drop it.
Yeah.
But now, because watching your streams, I've definitely seen the shift in your mentality as well. So I can definitely see how the Druid has kind of risen up the ladder. But it's also interesting that you talk about Rogue as well. ADWCTA and I have believed that Rogue is the best class in the arena. I don't know. Do you feel that way or no?
Not at all, man.
All right.
I actually get offended when people come to my chat and say Rogue is the best. Paladin is so broken. Paladin is like this disgusting.
But you just said you were the best with Rogue.
Sure. Okay. There's a little bit of inconsistency there, but I think for most players, I would say like 99%, maybe like 99.5% of players, if they play Paladin, their Paladin average is going to be higher than Rogue. Like Paladin has so many ways to cheat the board. Like you have a 1/1 on the board, and there's so much tempo you can gain off just one Blessing of Kings, or just like anything. It's very forgiving if you lose the board. As Paladin. And also, it's very easy to play all 3 archetypes. You can play as a mid-range Paladin or control, or even an aggro Paladin with the same deck. And because that flexibility, it's very easy to play powerful, extremely powerful. There are some paladin starts and decks that, with any deck, even a really good rogue deck, you cannot beat just because that, deck had like Muster Battle into Blessing of Kings. Sometimes those starts, they give you so many free wins that, I cannot, there's no way I could say that there's a class better than paladin.
All right. Yeah, I definitely agree with your statement that for 99%, or maybe not that exact percentage, but for most people, Paladin will be better. And I think part of it is so classes that are better for newer players are classes that have independently strong cards and less nuanced decision making. Like that's one of the reasons why Mage has been incredibly strong for the entirety of Hearthstone's existence. Something like Flame Strike, you just click on it, you cast it, and then it erases a lot of mistakes, right? With something like Rogue, you have to turn your, plan out your turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. If you have the coin, if you have Auto Barber and Undercity Valiant and Buccaneer, and then you have to figure out your dagger play, you have to figure out your combos, and it gets very interesting even just starting from turn 1. And with a lot of other classes, like Paladin and Mage, there's definitely turn planning, but it's not like turn 1 and you're racking your brain trying to think of what exactly am I going to do. I have like 20 different options, right?
I think Paladin just has a lot of cards, like class cards that just carry the class. Shield of Minibud, Mustard, Coghammer, Murloc Knight, True Silver, Blessing of Kings, Consecration. All these cards just carry the class. With Rogue, you can definitely get more bang for your buck, but you need to play it right. And I agree.
Yeah.
There's so much more thinking involved when you're playing Rogue because your hero power is so good and you want to be able to utilize it, but utilize it on the right turn. And I still stick to my guns. Paladin is so broken. I hate playing against Paladin.
I will agree with you on this one thing. Paladin, I think, is the most annoying to play against. Paladin and also High Wind Priest, very annoying to play against for the same reason. It's just you're always afraid of leaving them with anything on the board, right? Like you leave Paladin and Priest is just, they don't have the consistency. They also don't have the power that Paladins have. But with those classes, you try to clear the board every single turn, which number one
heals them.
Yeah, it heals them. Yeah, basically heals them, number one, and number two, you're gonna have to basically turn by turn always have a response. And if you don't have a response at one turn, suddenly the fear is like, oh gosh, it's Valen's, it's Blessing of Kings, it's Seal of Champ, it's Argent Protector, it's all these things, and then they can just like wait, get this one opportunity where they have something on the board and then win from that.
Yeah, so you bait out that opportunity, right? In a place where it doesn't hurt as much, and then you try to still control the board. Like you still have something you can do. Like at the very basis, like I never hate playing against Paladins, no matter how ridiculous the power of the Paladins cards are. Like, I get screwed over as much as anyone else by the Minibot to Muster to, I don't know, something, Cockhammer, Kings, and you're just like, all right, I lose. But generally, you can sort of do something about it. Whereas if you're facing a rogue and he has the right cards and he's a good player, you're done. Like, there's nothing you can do, you just lose the game because your opponent was a good player with a good deck.
I feel the opposite. I mean, I feel like it's a lot easier to recover against Rogue. Rogues generally have an explosive start, and they have burst for the finish. Paladins tend to have an explosive start the same, but they tend to finish with value. They get value off their busts and also off things like Murloc Knight now or any kind of Inspire card. And their hero power also adds, stats, pure stats to the board. Whereas with Rogue, if you do stabilize, you can generally be in an okay spot because if you stabilize, they didn't kill you with their burst. So it's a lot more forgiving. And with Paladin, what I see is if you just have one underdrop, and by underdrop I mean like weak, like let's say you play a 3-mana 3/3, and just because you have a 3-mana 3/3 instead of like a spider tank, you can just lose the game right there. And with Rogue, I don't experience that as much.
Yeah, because Rogue is focused on removing your thing. So you put a 3/3 out, the Rogue has to put together 3 damage to kill your 3/3. With the Paladin, you get the minion on, the minion keeps getting buffed, the minion never goes off the board, and then you're screwed because that minion's killed like 4 of your things.
And that comes back to Rogue having damage in numbers. Their damage is removal is Eviscerate 4, Backstab 2. And with Paladin, it's just you can overkill things with True Silver because you still get a 2-for-1 for it. And also, if you buff something up, you're overkilling it for sure. Like usually overkilling it. So it doesn't matter if your spells don't do exactly the right damage.
It's much more forgiving for someone to play as the Paladin. I definitely agree with that. What I disagree with is that Paladins get the fast start. I think it's the opposite. I think Paladins have shielded mini bot, which only really gives them a fast start if you don't have a 2-3. So like half the time it gives you a fast start. And then Seal of Champions gives you a fast start. But that's also if you have a spot removal, you'll be able to take care of it pretty well in the mid game. And then after that, you have the fast start. Like if you have any way to cheat tempo in the beginning, the Paladin doesn't quite get rolling until turn 4. So you at least get to like set up, make your stand, plan your reactions, and then like try to deal with the ridiculousness that the Paladin is going to send your way.
The problem is like oftentimes, like even with the coin or without the coin, on turn 4 it's an instant play. Like Blessing of Kings has charge. It's charge 4/4. Even better than that because it's a buff. True Silver instantly affects the board. And because it's at the start of the turn 4 play, there's not as much time to react. And it's not just Argent Protector, it's like Cog Hammer, Argent. It's not just Shield and Minibot, it's Argent Protector as well, and Cog Hammer, Muster Battle. There's a lot of unstoppable starts with Paladin. That's why sometimes you just lose a game, and that's why I want to avoid. I can deal with losing like through a long game where my opponent plays well, but just losing to one card at the start is really infuriating.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I think we've had a good conversation about kind of these strong classes, and now I think it's time for us to kind of open up and talk about what classes we're not so great at in the arena. So I can go first. This feels like a session. I should be on the couch for this, but obviously warrior. But I don't consider myself a good shaman or a priest player. And I think priest comes from just sort of the weakness in the class, and shaman as well. But I just don't think I understand the nuances of the classes that well. And I just want to ask you, Ratsmah, like what classes do you think you're not as strong in?
Obviously I'm the best at everything.
Obviously, let's pretend we're in an alternate universe where you are not the arena god that you are.
All right, I'll jump in first. Give Ratsmah a little bit of time.
This is so
to
far
think
away
about
from Rat. He's like, I don't understand.
Yeah, like what do you mean a class is not good at? So I mean, shaman and priest are. I think me and Merps in the last year our styles have gotten a little more similar. But like I always say, priest is my worst class besides warrior, and who knows? Right now with the new warrior cards, maybe it actually is priest. But then I actually play right, and then my priest record is actually not so bad these days. I think I'm having that same phenomenon as Ratsmah to a lesser extent. It's definitely nowhere near my top class, but it's not that close to my bottom class either. And Warlock has gone up as well, and Shaman has been awful for me. But then in LOE so far, I think me and Merps have each played one Shaman, and it was a co-op with two very different people. But it all went 12 wins. So now I don't even know. Maybe Shaman works now in LOE, but
I mean,
I'm just not comfortable with those.
It's classes. One run. I don't think you guys are playing Shaman wrong. I think Shaman is just very card dependent, and like I said, you can get more bang for your buck for a lot of classes like Paladin, Mage, Rogue if you play them right. But with Shaman, you kind of just get the cards you're dealt, right? If you get a bad draft, you're gonna end up doing bad. For me, lately, I'd say probably just my Warlock runs have not been going well. I don't know. Have you guys noticed that Flame Imp is kind of bad?
Yes. Like not just kind of bad. And it's very weird because in my head I still have that classic mentality where Flame Imp. I still remember
it's God tier.
It was God tier, and I still remember Trump saying best Warlock card, best Warlock card, one of the best cards in the game.
Because back then there was only two good Warlock cards. Screw best Warlock cards. All the Warlock cards sucked in Classic except for Flame Imp and Soulfire, the old Soulfire that cost 0 mana.
Yeah. And ADWCTA, when we were doing the tier list update before, we were actually posed with a legitimate question. What is, just kind of neutral, what should be ranked higher, Voidwalker or Flame Imp? And it was close. We had a conversation about it, right?
After what?
Patch. Oh, no, right now, basically, in the latest update. What is So like, what would you pick, Voidwalker or Flame Imp? Like, I think we could have a conversation about that. You know, like first pick, I think I would still pick Flame Imp, but it's getting closer and closer. And the more I pick some Voidwalker, that 1/3 taunt is really annoying. Demon Fire is good with it. You know, turn one, I'm never that disappointed with a 1/3, and especially just because
In the top deck, it's a lot better than Flame Imp. Just having a small taunt save you.
Yeah. And that 1 mana that you can squeeze out, it's pretty good. But with Warlock, I don't think you ever need that super. You know, on turn one, I think it's fantastic. But if you are just kind of playing, basically, if you're just playing, you know, in the mid game, you almost never need that 1-drop. You know.
Yeah. I think, yeah, my Warlock is probably my worst at the moment. Just need to make some like stylistic changes. I can't, you know, you get stuck in your ways of, you know, like you said, you look at Flame and you're like, oh god, this card is so good, or used to be so good. It's kind of hard to get rid of that mentality.
Yeah. And it's just with the Flame Imp, right? There used to be very few ways to cheat tempo. And now there's so many ways to cheat tempo in the early going. So you're just dealing 3 damage to yourself. And that matters a lot in the Warlock. I mean, the way I think about Voidwalker and Flame Imp is Flame Imp deals 3 damage to you. Voidwalker can prevent a lot of damage to you. And so, yeah, Flame Imp is obviously better if you just look at the card. But when you're looking at it later on, Flame Imp is kind of awful. And Voidwalker is kind of great because you can just hero power it again.
And you don't see, like very often, like in the past, you see Flame Imp just, if your opponent misses a drop somewhere, their 2-drop, 3-drop. It just won the game by itself. But now people are drafting ones much more aggressively, and also respecting that cheap removal may be better than, you know, more expensive removal. And so you don't tend to get those free wins. So that kind of hurts the card a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that was good. We touched upon that was a really interesting point that you brought up, because it was something that I was thinking of for a long time. I'm like, man, Flame Imp is just not that good. But I think that's a good transition to kind of talk about the general LoE meta. So Rats, I'm going to throw it to you first. What do you think about this new expansion, and how have you been doing in it?
I've been doing pretty good, actually. I don't think it changed Arena that much. I mean, you're adding, what, now there's 2 wings, 14 cards into a pool of 700 plus. It's not going to make a huge change, but I do enjoy the how they took off the TGT card bonus. So that's the part I've been enjoying the most. And a lot of the new cards are a lot of fun. That 3/4 Raptor for 3 for Druids, I think that's a cool card.
That's for Rogues, right?
Oh, is it for
Rogues? The 3/4 with the Death Rattle, or are you talking about the 3?
Copies of the Death Rattle?
Yes, that's for Rogues.
Yeah, is that for Rogue? Okay, my mistake. But yeah, I think that's
okay. It feels like they've just been releasing all the great early cards for Druid.
Still haven't drafted. Oh, I did draft it today, so I don't know why I made that mistake. But I mean, you know, a lot of the new cards are cool. I like the Discover mechanic, just like I like the Inspired mechanic. I don't think it'll make a huge change to the meta, those cards alone, but yeah, just like more content, more like changes, more variety. It's all good.
Definitely. And I'm just gonna make a comment. You are totally justified your mistake, because there is another Raptor for the Druid that also costs 3 mana. But it's if you remember, it's a 3/2 Raptor. It's basically the Harvest Golem, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. The better Harvest Golem. That's also a beast.
They're really making Beast Druid a thing.
Yeah, I love it. Because sometimes you just want to play. Yeah, sometimes you want to play with beasts, but you don't want to play a hunter.
I don't know how many people have really thought about that.
Did you guys notice how good Jeweled Scarab is in Hunter?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. It's like pick your way to destroy your opponent. Do you want Unleash? Do you want Deadly Shot?
Or just Animal Companion is fine too.
And it's a beast too, the 1/1.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. So a little bit of stats for you. ADWCTA and I actually, we went back to our tier list and we analyzed Jeweled Scarab class by class. Jeweled Scarab for Hunter is the second best. The number 1 Jeweled Scarab class is the Paladin, actually. I know you're going to love this, but Paladins have the best 3 mana
Muster,
cards.
Cockhammer, Seal.
Outdoor Peacekeeper.
I mean, I think that's probably more because Paladins just have, on average, higher win rates than Hunter.
It's not, no, just in terms of how good the cards you get offered are from the draw.
Yeah.
Not like how well the card is actually performing.
So this is a win rates. We just went back to the tier scores, the tier list that we make, and looked at kind of the average tier list adjusted for quantity as well. Because the more cards you have at 3 mana, for example, mages have all of their secrets, right? So I believe they have like 16 or 17 cards that cost 3 mana. So their class cards will be weighed heavier than other classes. But mages cards, Jeweled Scarab is average at best because of all of their subpar secrets. Yeah. But Paladin is number 1 by far, and then it's Hunter. So those two classes, good Scarab value. And if you just get an Unleash or a Deadly, those are game-changing cards, right? And sometimes if you're in a tough spot, you pop down the Scarab, and you have a decent chance of grabbing one of those, and you probably need one of those.
You get an answer when your back's to the wall. Kind of reminds me of like Dark Peddler. That card's amazing.
Yes.
The 1-cost cards have a huge impact for Warlock. Powerful Homing Soulfires. They can, give you that extra reach for lethal, or just make your curve look nice and good because mana is cards in Warlock, right?
Yeah. And I think for the whole Discover mechanic, it's just been very well reviewed by like pretty much anybody who like has ever talked about the Discover mechanic. Everybody loves it down the line. This is just like great game design.
Of course, it adds more consistency because you're not getting a random card. It's like less RNG, more you're kind of planning out your turns, picking what card is best for the future of that game. I think it's a good mechanic.
Yeah. And okay, so this is the part where everybody comes and hates on ADWCTA. But I really like that Ethereal Conjurer card, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with it because it's so good of a card, but I like it even more because it lets you draw into your Flame Strike that you don't have in your deck. So it counters a little bit of the Flame Strike dilution that's been going on forever. And then TGT bonus has dropped out so far, and the LOE bonus hasn't come up yet. So you're seeing Flame Strike. Like, if there's one tip to give to people on how you play an LOE right now, it's that, one, you're seeing a lot more mages now than you did in TGT compared to paladins. And that's because mages are doing well. And part of the reasons mages do well is because they have a lot of Flame Strikes now. So, whereas in TGT, I barely played around Flame Strike. Now I'm playing around Flame Strike every turn again because they're just always there. You're always going to see Flame Strikes again. And it's a big shift in the meta from what I've observed.
I actually have no idea what card you're talking about.
Oh, it's a 5-mana 6/3 that you discover a spell.
Oh, I see.
And there are a lot of mage spells, but still, you get offered 3 of them. And, there's no neutral cards to dilute the pool. So your chances of getting a Flame Strike is not too low. And you also have, like, Blizzard or like things like that.
It's a class common card.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a card that we've been talking about. We ranked it pretty high on our tier list, and a lot of people have disagreed and tossed out various reasons. But so it seems like you're not as familiar with this card.
Well, one thing I'll say about the card is it kind of goes with the mage theme, and I think it's a well-designed card because the whole thing with mage is that if you play long game against mage in arena, you will be punished. You're not going to get more value than the mage with the AoE and the pings, the free pings. But mage's one weakness is getting run down. They don't have good mid-game removal like Consecrations, Holy Novas. They don't have Forked Lightnings or Cleaves. And having the card be a 6/3 and it trading down is a huge deal. If it was 3/6, it would be an always pick. But because
if it was okay, that would be
because it trades down, I think it's a huge deal. And I think it just fits the mage, and it gives mage that weakness still, that chink in their armor,
Yeah.
Still, I think it's good. Doesn't make the class overpowered like cards like Muster for Battle, which pretty much gives everything they need.
Definitely.
But,
no, we agree. So we definitely think it's a good card, quite a bit above average, nowhere near Muster, and that's definitely true. Muster on our tier list has a ridiculous score. I think this is still like 40 points below, or maybe just only 30 points below Muster. But Muster is one of those cards that almost nothing touches it in terms of impact on the game. Which is
can we get some updates on win rates on Muster again? Have they changed?
No, not as of like 2 weeks ago. I don't know about AOE. I don't know how that's affecting things.
But look, muster is just, I mean, if we want to talk about muster, it's so easy to kind of break it down, right? Guaranteed board and guaranteed value. Because that Light's Justice does so much. You're basically giving ping to a non-ping class. You're giving them guaranteed board initiative on their next turn, which is a pivotal next turn, so they can Blessing Kings and get a 5/5 charge. Just way too good. Way too good.
All right. That's enough LOE talk, and we can move on to the question from the GOAT. This is a question that our mascot, the GOAT, is supposed to ask us every Lightforge.
Okay.
So this question from the GOAT is going to be directed towards our special guest, Ratsmah, and also something that he can help us with as well. So Ratsmah, while watching your stream, it seems you always have these kind of fun and interactive goals that you have in terms of wins, in terms of whatever. So we want to know, like, what is the next fun goal for you on the stream, and what is something that we can implement for us in terms of, because I've seen like you just do the normal thing where you say I'm gonna get this many wins, but I've also seen you go a little bit more wacky with it.
So one thing I've noticed playing Arena is, because there's no ranking system, we talked about this, there's like no way to gauge how good you are, or like, just like after playing Arena for a long time, you kind of get stale. And one thing I'm planning on doing is it's coming up on Thursday. I'm going for the world record fastest 12 win ever.
Ooh.
So if you want to watch that, you can tune into my stream.
What's the current fastest 12 win ever?
There is none, so that's what.
So you go.
That's the thing. No one has timed it, so there is.
That's
no
good.
record.
That's good.
I will make a record.
Start it off.
If people start trying to beat it, and this is what we need to do as content providers, is we need to make it fresh, keep it fresh and exciting.
I totally agree. You'll get no competition in that department from us. We will rope every turn.
I've got just, quite a few small comments here and there about how I'm slow, about how I'm the worst player ever. But I'm look, if this takes off, I will definitely attempt it, get my 3 wins, and then promptly get out. So it does sound really fun, and I do appreciate this. And because once again, as someone who has not had as many arena victories as you, and who doesn't have the experience, I often do wonder how you keep it fresh, keep it interesting. That's really cool, and I think it's something that you start, and a lot of people would want to follow up on and try to beat you.
That's awesome. Competition is great. I love it.
All right. That was a good question from the GOAT. All right. So I think we've answered what you're doing next, and also what we can do next. So I'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I think it'll be really good. Just gonna have fun with it. It's not a serious contest. Maybe someday someone will try to break it and be like, "Ha, Ratsmah, you suck," or that all adds to the fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So I want to give a shout out to our patrons for sponsoring this podcast. As we've gone over, we don't really have sponsors, so it is up to our patrons to keep this kind of running. And it's patreon.com/Grinning Goat. And I think by now, maybe the word patron is no longer PTSDing people, now that the patron decks have gone to be normal decks for a while. But it really helps us out. If you like the Lightforge and you want to support us, head over to patreon.com/Grinning Goat and feed the goat. So one thing one of our segments, and we've been kind of getting away from the segments with LOE coming out, because that kind of just throws everything away. And if you're listening to this and you're wondering why are we not reviewing LOE cards that are coming up, it's because if you don't know, this upcoming week, when you're probably listening to this, is Thanksgiving in the US, which means Blizzard has decided that the whole world will celebrate Thanksgiving with America, and so no one is getting Wing 3 until the next Thursday. So there's no preview of Wing 3 because it's not coming out until December. So we're not going to review those cards until our next Lightforge. But we will talk about kind of we'll bring card good bad back for this episode. And in Card Good Bad, we talk about whether a card is good or bad. And today's topic is Divine Spirit versus Power Word Shield. And I think I can start it off by saying, okay, Divine Spirit is bad. You guys can disagree with me, but I think it's kind of an awful card. Divine Spirit is they're both priest cards. Divine Spirit is 2 mana, double your minion's health, and Power Word Shield is 1 mana plus 2 health to your minion, and then draw a card. So, Merps, do you want to talk about why there's such a big difference between Divine Spirit and Power Word Shield?
Okay, so first of all, before I go on with my expert analysis, your analysis was Divine Spirit is bad, take it away, Merps.
Yes. This is
Awesome.
I'm really good at this kind of analysis.
Yeah, okay, great analysis. This is why you are the arena expert that you are. So I'll start off by saying I think it's universally agreed upon that Power Word Shield is an amazing card. It plays into what Priest wants to do, which is buff minions, kind of give validity to its hero power, because the more health something has, the more chances it has to be healed, the more opportunity it has to take advantage of its health as well. In the early game, it is one of the ways that you can kind of cheat as a priest, basically, because priest has, other than I would say Shrinkmeister, difficult ways to get that advantage, to get that edge in the early game. Vagan's is fantastic, but it's a little bit clunky as 3 mana. You need something with Power Word Shield, and especially if you just have a coin, you can just like coin Power Word Shield something, and suddenly you have a much beefier minion that you can keep on the board, which is something you always want as a priest. It cycles through your deck. It does something that you like, so very powerful card. Divine Spirit, I would say it's one of those cards that in a vacuum, it's not good. If you look at the deck that you have, I think it could be average to even slightly above average card. But once again, we run into the same problem, right? Like the prerequisite to making Divine Spirit a decent card is you need a minion on the board. And not only that, you need kind of a big minion. And then you stick it on there, and then you run into some issues in which if you go all in on one minion, it can just get removed. It could get hexed or whatever. So you run into those problems. But I think in particular decks, it could be a decent card.
Yeah, I agree with you. And sometimes it gives you that win condition, Sometimes you end up with decks that maybe don't get enough value and you aren't fast enough to take down your opponent. It gives you a win condition in that if it does survive, like it doesn't get polymorphed or hexed, it gives you a body to heal for, infinite value. People love this term with your hero power. And I mean, one thing with Powered Shield is obviously we're not saying which one is better, because obviously Powered Shield is so much better than Divine Spirit. It's the fact that Powered Shield gives you a play, and it's a free play since it cycles itself. And when you're left over with 1 mana, you can just play it, and it's very easy. It also different from Divine Spirit. It gives you more mana or more health per mana compared to something like your hero power. Sometimes when you're stuck with Divine Spirit, it's marginally better Divine Spirit, but you waste a card. But you could always just hero power, right? But with Divine, you're not ever making that trade-off where I'm not going to hero power so I can Powered Shield. You can always Powered Shield with hero power, or you can because they cost different amounts of mana, and it costs 1 mana. It's so easy to play.
Yeah. So the problem with Divine Spirit, like if you try to math it out, right? Power Word Shield, ignore the fact that Power Word Shield draws a card, and just stick with the tempo. It's 1 mana, 2 health. Divine Spirit is 2 mana. You want at least 4 health on that. So your minion has to be at least 4, but it's a little more clunky than Power Word Shield. You probably should be getting 5 health at the minimum for it to even be like on par tempo wise with Power Word Shield. Now, when you have a 5 health minion on the board, and then you want to double its health, you need to have something to do with that 10 health besides just keep it alive. Because if you just keep it alive, you may not need a minion with 10 health to stay alive, right? Like, what's actually out there dealing 8 damage to your minion? What you actually want is generally just for it to stay alive so you can heal it, but you can only still heal 2 health per turn, no matter how much health your minion could potentially have. True. So all that extra health is a little annoying in the beginning, especially if you put it on like a Yeti or something a little bigger than a Yeti, especially if it has taunt. But unless these specific combo situations line up, you're never going to be able to heal it back to the value that you kind of want to get with the Divine Spirit.
You
It's
also
something
make
that
yourself more vulnerable to removal as well.
yeah, it's a hard removal because you're committing 5 health onto this thing, whereas Power Word Shield not only doesn't commit a card, but only puts 2 health on something. Um,
Yeah, I
and
agree. Like as a first pick, I would say Divine Spirit is a really weak pick. But as Merps pointed out, in the right deck, it could be a very powerful card. If you have a deck full of really high health costs, high health minions, or you have the Inner Fire somewhere that combos well with your deck. Yeah, it's one of those picks, and there's a lot of cards like this that are good in certain specific decks. Yeah, it's one of those.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good summary of Divine Spirit. So once again, we're going from card good bad to card good bad / perhaps decent, but it depends on your deck composition and who knows.
nah, I think Divine Spirit is just pretty bad. Like they need to design a card where it just gives. It says 1 mana, give a ton of health to something, and then even at that point, you'll see that it's not a super overpowered card, and that just speaks to how bad Divine Spirit is. It's a combo card. And they were worried about design space probably when they made the card, so that's why it costs what it does.
Yeah. I think we all pick it. Probably have placed similarly in our own mental tier lists. But me and Merps are just nicer to the card.
Adams is such a bully to all these cards. Got to give him a chance, man.
I've given that card way too many chances in the beginning when I was trying to make that work. You guys don't know, my first actual constructed deck was a Divine Spirit Priest, as I think everyone's first constructed deck was. Because
Right.
it just seems so cool to build the biggest light spawn, right? Like, what could be better? And you win 1 out of every 4 games like that. It's a decent one, right?
And then you meet up with a silence. One silence, which I know people never run in constructed, right?
No, of course
I think
not.
a lot less silence now too. People aren't picking up.
Yeah, maybe this deck is going to make a comeback. Maybe its win rate will go up from 25% to 33%, huh?
Oh,
There you go.
there
Dream large.
it is. And guys, and you wonder why ADWCTA takes forever to get to rank 20.
Okay, so let's move on to a very similar topic, which is that we're going to do the Arena Coup after this Lightforge, which is a run, and we don't get to pick the class. And what the class that rolled up for today is Priest. So Ratsmah, teach us how to be good at Priest. Priest is
Please.
not our class. It seems to have you seem to have divined or stumbled upon an over I think an over 9.5 or something wins per run with Priest since TGT came out. I think I'm at 7 since TGT came out with Priest. I don't know what Merps is at, but how are you making Priest work so well?
So Priest, it's like Paladin where you need that early board control, but less forgiving if you don't have it. What you want to do with Priest is overvalue, really in your draft, value high quality low drops. 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s. Zombie chows are a must. 2/3s are amazing. Anything that creates a conflict on the board where it can't trade. 3/2s are kind of bad because they allow trades which, and then wouldn't allow you to play Powered Shield or Valens. Things that create standstills, things with stealth are very good. High quality 2, 3s, and 4s. And your late game can be lower quality because most of your late game is you healing with your hero power. So don't mind that. Low cheap removal is a must. Tempo cards like Shadow or Death are really good, obviously. Madness. And you just ride that early board control with your heal.
Yeah, I think there's definitely that very fine line that you have to walk where you obviously as a priest you want the big guys, you want the fatties so you can heal them up, get value, but at the same time you have to get there, right? So that's why when you were talking about your zombie chows, your shrinkmeisters, your early game, you need to be able to get it to a point where you can set up your win condition. But then again, if you load up on all early game, then you don't have the fatties to heal. But if you load up on the fatties to heal, then you're never going to get to that point because you're just going to get run over.
And what I've realized is really what you need is if you have quality mid-game cards like quality 4-drops, you can usually get value off of those. And when you're in a situation where, and this happens when they play an overdrop, like something big, like a Boulder Fist Ogre, usually you'll have an answer or you'll have enough board control because of your quality early cards to deal with that Boulder Fist Ogre with just throwing minions at it. Yeah, that's you want to put a big emphasis on high quality 2, 3s, and 4s. And that's pretty much it.
Oh, all right.
I like it.
That sounds like a good plan. We're definitely going to try to do that. So one of the things that I like about playing Priest, though, is that if your opponent is playing against a Priest and he sort of knows what he's doing, which is likely once you get it to a certain number of wins, you will get value out of your 4-drops. Your opponent will not just go face because they're so worried about you buffing your minion, you putting that Tempo Enforcer on, and then you climbing out. So if your health is not in like dire range, they'll just trade 2 of their minions into your Yeti. They'll trade 3 of their minions, and they'll do whatever it takes to remove minions off of your board, which is pretty wonderful. Because, like, as the Priest, that's why you can take so many, like, curve cards, right? And as the Priest, you're always playing for card advantage. It's because you're actually getting card advantage, not just from the heals in the late game, but even in the mid game, because your opponent will be inefficiently removing your board whenever they don't have a removal.
Yeah, you get that respect. Same as, like, Shaman and Paladin being really good against aggro decks because you got to clear the 1/1s and you got to clear the totems where you get punished.
Yeah.
You get that same respect, but... you have really one-sided matchups as Priest. Against any class that creates tokens, like Shaman or Paladin, you do really bad. But against other control decks, you have a huge edge from the start. If you have the right cards, like anti-late game cards, which Priests usually do end up with,
Mm-hmm.
So, just win your bad matchups and you're good to go as Priest.
Yeah, and never face any Paladins, right?
Yeah, win those games, man.
That's good though. Paladins are being seen less in the meta now with the OE, so Priest should be doing okay. So I mean, a lot of people are looking at how classes go up and down, and they generally look at the cards of what the class gets. And Priest didn't get terribly great cards in OE, but by the same token, if the meta shifts against the Paladin just a bit, and you see a little bit less Paladin and a little bit more Mage or even Rogue, you can see the Priest kind of making a comeback.
Yeah, I mean, class strength is all relative, right? Relative to what other people are playing. So yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's also one of the reasons why Rogue is so powerful. It has the excellent matchup against the Paladin.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's pretty good. I think we've discussed, and because we've also discussed Priest pretty much throughout this entire podcast as well. That's pretty good. And I think that's a pretty good spot to sort of just end this podcast. So Ratsmah, before we wrap everything up, for those of you who want to see your content, want to reach you, but don't know how would they go about doing that?
You can visit me at twitch.tv/Ratsmah, or you can visit my YouTube channel at youtube.com/RatsmahTV. There you go. And
anything else you want to...
Just one thing. Just make sure you tune in for the world record fastest 12-in run on Thursday. Should be a lot of fun. And thanks for this podcast. You guys are doing great work.
Great. Right. Thanks. What time on Thursday? What time on Thursday?
All day. We gotta get 12 ins, right, to set the record. If we're playing really fast, I'm gonna assume that we're not gonna be playing optimally, so it might take a while.
Cool.
We'll definitely try.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely. All right. That'll be a nice Thanksgiving, actually.
Oh, that's Thanksgiving, huh?
Yeah.
You did not plan this out, did you?
No, I did not. I didn't.
What are you thankful for? Ratsmah playing fast. Ratsmah getting the fastest 12 win on.
Maybe it's more important to do on Thanksgiving for people who maybe are college students or aren't spending it with their family.
Yeah, no, it would be awesome. I wasn't joking. When I was in college, there were a number of Thanksgivings where I didn't go home. So I was just on campus by myself. Not really by myself. There were a couple people that were always around. But it would be nice to have a stream, Especially when probably not a lot of people were streaming at that time.
For sure.
All right, great. Well, that is Ratsmah from Temple Storm, and I am ADWCTA.
This is Merps. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys. Finger Blaster Prime. Thank you.
You almost had it.
Finger Blaster Prime. There we go. Thank you, guys. I know. That was not cool.